All right, so we are going to start with today's session now. Let's recall what all things we did yesterday. So yesterday we wrapped up all the data types. We got to know about casting. We also had an introduction to some simple data structures, or better to say, sequence data types that Python provide us. And among those, we discussed a little bit about lists. And we ended the session on some of the functions that how to remove elements from the list. So this was assigned as a task. Now, in today's session, we will be exploring all the other data types that are tuples, sets, and dictionaries. And then there is frozen set as well. We will be also discussing about the input function. And if time allows, we will be starting with for loops also in today's session. All right. So before we begin, I want to ask whether you guys were able to find three methods that you can use to remove elements from the list. There are two functions which you can use for the same for doing the same task, and there is another way by which you can remove the elements from the list. In altogether, there are three ways. So, do you guys know what are the three ways to remove elements from the list? If you don't know, give me a thumbs up. If you know, then you can write the snippet of the code in the chat box. Yes, there are two functions rightly mentioned by Hardik, remove and pop. Okay, I guess everyone knows about remove and pop. So let me just declare a list, and our list has some elements inside it. Now, if you want to remove any element of the list, you can use the remove function. And what it is going to do, you can provide whatever value you want to remove from the list. Let's say I want to remove 55. Let's check the list, and the value has been removed. All right. So this is what the remove function can do. Simply provide the element. The element can be of any data type, and that element will be getting removed from the list. Now, the second function that everyone mentioned is the pop function. All right. So if you see the docstring of the pop function, it can be used in two ways. Firstly, the docstring says that remove and return item at the index, which means for the pop function to work, you have to mention the index number of the element that you would like to delete. However, you can see that the index parameter of this function has a default argument, which is -1. What do we mean by this? If I do not provide any index number, then by default, the last element will be popped out from the list. Okay. However, if I use the pop function and I provide an index number, let's say 0, then that specific element will be popped out from the list. Okay. So there are two ways to make this function work. Now, Mordhawaj has mentioned that there is a third way by using the del keyword. Let's see how we can use the del keyword to delete the element. So my list contains these are duplicate elements. Let me just reinitialize it so that I can remove something which is very specific. Let's remove 55 or 67. So you can use the del keyword by mentioning the name of your list, and in the square brackets, mention the index number that you would like to delete. So I want to delete the element present at index number -2. Let's check if the element is removed or not. The element is no longer present in the list. Okay, so this is the third way that you can use del keyword along with the index number of the element that you would like to delete. Okay. There is one more function, however, it is not concerned with deleting the elements. This function can be used to clear the list. All the elements of the list from the list would be emptied. So if I do list1 dot clear and check list1, you would see that list1 now is an empty list. However, it is still present in the memory. But if you want to delete the list altogether, then you can use the same del keyword, write the name of your list, and if you try to access the list now, you'll get an error saying that list1 is not defined. So in this case, the list is emptied of all elements, whereas in this case, the list has been deleted altogether from the memory. Can you guys please give me a thumbs up if everything till here is clear to you guys? All right. Now we are going to move towards the second concept, which is sorting. Okay. So sorting means arranging the elements either in ascending order or in descending order. Okay. So we have list 1. Okay, we need to redeclare it. And I guess it is already sorted. Let me just rearrange the elements. Yes, now it's fine. Okay, so we'll be we'll be seeing how to sort elements of a list. And there are two major ways to do that. So firstly, we have the sort function, and we have another function that is known as the sorted function. If you apply the sort function on the list, okay, and check the list, you will see that the list has been sorted in an ascending manner. What if you want to sort the list, but you want to use the descending order? So here, if you read the docstring of the list, of the function, you will see that in the function signature, we have a parameter reverse. The default value of this parameter is false. So if we set it to true, then after sorting the list, it will also reverse the list. And then the sorting will be done in descending order. Okay, let's do it once. And this time I'm mentioning the parameter reverse and setting it to true. All right, the list is now sorted in descending order. There is one more parameter which you can see here, that is key. We are going to discuss it at a later stage when we will discuss about functions and all. But it would be really beneficial if you guys explore a little bit about this parameter. So consider it as a task. What is the key parameter? You have to explore a little bit about it. Okay. But when we discuss about functions altogether, we are going to see how we can provide key to the list function. Okay. Now let's see how we can sort the list using the other function, that is the sorted function. So here I have reinitialized my list with these values. And if I use sorted function upon list 1, it returns me a sorted list. But if you check the list, you will see that it is still unsorted. Now, the reason being that the sorted function, it creates a copy of your list, sorts it, and returns it as a result. The original list, it never changes. However, the sort function, it changes your original list. So depending upon your requirement, depending upon the situation, you can use either of these functions. And if you want to sort it in descending order, you have the reverse parameter here as well. We also have the key, and we can sort it in either of the orders. If till here you guys are able to understand, give me a thumbs up. All right. Now, let's move to another sequence data type, that is tuple. So when we talk about tuples, if we are asked to define what a tuple is, then it is called an ordered collection of data items. And by definition, if you go, the list is also an ordered collection of data items. If both of them can be defined in the similar manner, and when you see how the elements will be stored, you will find that both of the data items, they are quite the same. Sorry, both of the sequence data types, they are quite the same. So the major thing for us here would be to differentiate between tuple versus list. Okay, when to use which of the data structure. So let's start by initializing a tuple. There are two ways, just like in the case of list. You can either use parentheses, okay, and this is the most common form of initialization of tuples that you will see. Right now, P1 here is a tuple and it contains nothing, so it is an empty tuple. Let's check its type. P1 is a tuple. Another way to do the same is to use the tuple constructor or the tuple function. And in the same way, you can again initialize an empty tuple. If you want to provide the values, you can provide the values here. And now you can see that P2 contains these elements. So let's declare a tuple for our use and let's see what all elements can be stored inside a tuple. So I'll be using parentheses to declare a tuple. Tuple can store integer values. It can store a string value, a float number, a complex number. It can store a list. It can store another tuple. And obviously, there can be nested sequences. So a tuple inside tuple or a list inside list. Okay. So here, this is my tuple T3 and it contains all of these elements. So just like you can store list inside a tuple, you can also store a tuple inside list. Okay, this is possible. Now, when we were talking about lists, we were able to store all of these elements as well inside lists also. So why is there a need to have another data structure when we already had list to serve the same purpose? So the major difference between the two is that tuples are immutable and lists are mutable. Okay. There, once you initialize the tuple, you cannot change its element. Whereas inside list, we saw that we could change the elements, we could index them out, and we could replace them with a new value. So if you perform indexing upon a tuple, you could very well get the element out, which means indexing is possible. But if you try to assign a value, then you get the same error that we got in case of strings, which says tuple object does not support item assignment. So when you have a data which you don't want anyone to change frequently, which you want to be kept safe, you can store it inside tuples, such as passwords, such as like Aadhaar card number or phone number. You don't want people to mess with it. Okay, so for now we can take it as example that we can store them inside tuple. However, if there is something that can be frequently changed, so you can store them inside list. Okay. Now, since we saw that tuples can be indexed out, it also means that slicing of tuples is possible. So it is quite same how list was sliced, how string was sliced, because all of them are sequence data types. So slicing will you guys will be exploring on your own. The syntax is same. Whatever is the variable name, use square brackets, mention a start index, mention a stop index, mention a set value. Okay. Also, if you want to reverse the tuple, the technique is same. Like we could reverse a list or we could reverse a string. So T3 and colon colon -1 it's going to reverse my tuple. Okay, this is a small technique that you could use. If everything till here is clear to you guys, please give me a thumbs up so that we can proceed further. Okay. Now again, if you want to check the length of your tuple, we have the length function, like which we were using earlier as well. You can use this function and check the length of the tuple. If you want to know whether duplicacy is possible or not, you can see that I have declared many duplicate elements. So yes, duplicacy is also possible inside tuples. Now there comes a concept which is called tuples. Okay, if I have a tuple which contains element, let's say these are the elements, and if I assign them to these many variables, let's say A, B, and C, so in that case, each individual value will get sequentially assigned to the respective variable. This concept is known as unpacking of tuples. All right. Here, if let's say I have three major values and which I want to use in my program, let's say I want to use 11, 12, and 13. So I have assigned them to the respective variables. But let's say I have a fourth value and I won't be using it much, but still, since I'm unpacking the tuple, I need to provide a variable here as well. So in such cases, you can provide underscore, and underscore will be acting as a placeholder for this value. Okay. So it is not necessary that you are going to put the underscore at the last. You can place it anywhere. I am just trying to tell that underscore can also be used as a variable name or as a placeholder for any of these values. All right, this is known as unpacking of tuple. Now, if you want to declare a tuple with only one item in it, how would you do that? So, if I want to declare a tuple with only one single item, let's say I have a tuple of fruits, and inside it, I want only one single fruit, that is apples. Let's see what is the value inside fruits. Now, when I access the value, you can see that I only get one single string. If you check the data type, you will observe that this is a string, which means if you write one item inside parentheses in this manner, it won't be considered as a tuple, it will be treated as a string. But if you want to achieve the same, please don't forget to put a comma at the end. In this way, your tuple with one element will be created. All right. So if there is no comma, it is treated as string. If there is a comma, it is treated as a tuple, and a tuple with one single value. Okay. If we talk about what are the inbuilt functions provided for tuple, so you could see that there are only two functions. Okay. One is count, one is index. Since tuples are immutable, there are not much functions which can be used to change or to be applied on tuples. Okay, so again, a task for you guys. You are going to see what these two functions are. They are quite self-explanatory. Count is going to count the occurrence of any element, and index is going to return the first occurrence of any element. Okay, please see how you can apply them on any tuple. Now, one thing that I have been saying since we are discussing about tuple, that tuples are immutable entities and they cannot be changed, which means it is almost impossible up until now, according to the information that we have, that it is impossible to change the value of the tuple. Can you guys think of a way by which you can do so, by which you can change a tuple. Any guess? Okay, Hardik says tuples are immutable. Yes, we know that tuples are immutable, but still, if I say that it is possible to change the value of a tuple, can you think of a way to do that? Reassigning? Yes, kind of, but the correct word that I was looking for is casting. Okay, so not reassigning, but by casting it into a list, you can convert a tuple and then you can recast into a tuple again. How we can do this? So we have this tuple T3, and we know that it is immutable. Okay, but still I want to change the value. So what I can do, I know that each and every data type has a constructor of its own. So I'm going to typecast this tuple into a list. I have this list now. Let's store it inside a variable. So I am going to use a variable name converted, which is a list now. I can index the first element out, and since this is a list, it is mutable. I can change the value. Okay, the value is changed. My work is done. Reconvert it into a tuple, and you can reassign it to the same variable. Okay, so tuple is immutable. This is the fact. But if there is a task where you want to change a tuple and it should be necessarily done. So in that, to do that task, to achieve it, you can convert it into a list and you can apply all the functions that you could apply on the list. Okay. So which means if you want to remove element from a tuple, which is not quite possible directly, convert it into a list, use the remove or pop function, delete the element. All right. Please give me a thumbs up if you guys are able to understand what we have done with respect to conversions of tuple into list. All right. Now, since we know about lists and tuple, let's discuss a little bit about the mathematical operators that we can apply on these data types or these data structures. So if we have a list, let's say I have L1 and I have L2. We know that if I use the plus operator on these lists, I'll get a third list, which includes the element from both of them. If I try to multiply them, I can't. If I try to divide them, if I try to subtract or use the modulus operator, I cannot achieve anything. In all of the cases, an error will occur. But if I multiply the list with any integer value, then the elements of the list, they get repeated that many number of times. So earlier I had only 1, 2, 3. Now I have these elements repeated thrice inside a new list. Okay. Similarly, for tuples as well, if you have a tuple, I guess we have uh, T2, yes, and we also have a tuple T3. So if you do T2 plus T3, the elements from both of the tuples are combined. If you try to multiply them, you can't do it. If you try to divide, subtract anything, any other operator won't work. If you try to multiply the tuple with an integer, so the elements of the tuple, they get repeated that many number of times. Okay, these are some common operations that can be performed. Okay, with this, everything there is about tuples. We have discussed it, and we are going to move towards the third data structure, that is dictionary. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if there is no doubt regarding tuples and list. Okay, thank you guys. So let's talk about dictionary now. As the name suggests, and you can compare it to the dictionary that we use. In the dictionary, like in the normal dictionary that we all might have, in it, every word is associated with a key. Okay, so if I have to look for the meaning of something, like I want to search for the meaning of program, I would search for this word and then I will have an associated meaning of this word. Okay, so in the same way, dictionary is a data structure which contains elements in form of key and value pairs. Okay, just like in a normal dictionary, one single key will never be repeated. Okay, program will have only one assigned meaning. I won't be finding it at multiple locations inside any dictionary. In the same way, a key should never be repeated inside dictionary. We will see if we repeat the key, what happens. Okay, so when we talk about declaring a dictionary, we can do so by using the curly brackets. So B1 here is an empty dictionary, and there is also the constructor of dictionary, that is dict, and you can create a dictionary by using this constructor as well. Okay, but we are going to use only the curly brackets frequently. So let's create a dictionary. Now I'm going to create, let's give it a key. So the key is company. The value is Inzint, and after it I'm going to put a comma. Now this whole thing is one form of key value pair. This is the key, this is the value. Key and value, they are separated by colon, and two pairs of key and value, they are separated by comma. So after it I can mention another key value pair, that is location, and location can be Noida. Okay. So this is my dictionary and I'm going to give it a name, that is info. All right. Now, talking about what all elements can be stored inside a dictionary and what can be a key, what can be a value, this is something of a major concern. We have seen that string can be a key and string can be a value because all the key and value that we have inside this dictionary is of string data type. What if inside this dictionary I try to add integer as key and assign a string as value to it? So it is possible. Now, integer can be a key and integer can be a value as well. So in the same way, you guys have to figure out what can be a key and what all things can be a value. Generally, every data type that we have studied for so far can be a value inside a dictionary. With key, there are some restrictions. So you are going to explore those. Also, you are going to very carefully study what happens if you try to make a Boolean value as a key. Okay, this won't generate any kind of error, but you have to see one thing, that if you declare a Boolean value as key and there is another key which is either 1 or 0, what is the change that you can observe inside your dictionary? Okay, this is a task. Okay, this could be a trivia for you guys. So you have to explore what this can do. Okay, what would be the result that you achieve? There won't be any error. I can tell you that. Okay, so these are two things that you have to do with respect to dictionary. Check what can be a key, what can be a value, and check what happens when you perform this activity. Okay. Now, when I told you about dictionary, I told that no key can be duplicate. Okay, so the duplicacy is not allowed. But what if I try to do that? Okay, so here I already have a key by the name of location. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another key with the same name and assign a new value to it. Let's declare the dictionary and check. So declaring a key with a duplicate value has not resulted into any error, but you can see that the value which I had assigned, which was Noida for the first occurrence, it has been updated, and the value which finally is inside the dictionary, it is of the last occurrence of the key. Okay. So no matter be the key, the value that will be finally assigned would be of the last occurrence of that key. Okay. So if I mention another key with the same name and give it a new value, then let's see what is going to happen. So locations, and I am changing the location to Gurugram. So this time the location would be Gurugram because the last occurrence has this value. All right. Okay. Please give a thumbs up if you have some idea about how to declare a dictionary and what is the basic syntax of declaring key and value pairs. Okay. Now just give me a minute. We are going to have a minute break. You guys can have a sip of water and I will too. And then we will explore what is indexing and how it can be done in dictionaries. All right. Okay, guys, please give me a thumbs up if everyone is here and we can proceed further with the session. Okay. So let's explore indexing with respect to dictionary, and we are going to use the same method that we know as of now. So we know that the first element is always present at zeroth index. So for info, if I wish to get the first element and I use the index number 0, I get an error, and the error says key error. By looking at the type of error, I get to know that it might be the case that since this key is not present anywhere, indexing was not possible with respect to 0, which helps me to conclude that indexing in case of dictionary is based upon keys. So if you want to index anything out, you have to mention the key, and for that key, you will get the respective value. Okay, let's do the same with location because we have 3 keys of with this name. Again, we get the last value only. Okay. So in this manner, you can perform indexing upon dictionary. However, slicing of dictionary is not possible. You cannot use negative index numbers here, and you can only index out a value based upon its key. Okay. There are a few functions as well, which are very common and which will come really handy when you apply loops on dictionary. So let's discuss about those functions. If I want to get all the keys from my dictionary, we have a function that is called keys, and it will return a list of all the keys from the dictionary. If you want to get the values, we have a function for values, and this will be returning the list of only the values inside the dictionary. But if you want to get both of them, key as well as the values, so there is a third function by the name of items. This is going to return a list of tuple containing key value pair. Okay. Please give me a thumbs up if you have an idea about how to do this, how to access the values, how to use these functions. It is quite easy. There is nothing which is very difficult associated with it. Okay. This takes us to our new concept with respect to dictionary, that is adding or updating the value inside the dictionary. So what I'll be doing, I'll be demonstrating one way, and you have to explore for the other way to do that. Okay, there are two ways to add or update value inside a dictionary. So I'll be demonstrating one way, and you have to look for what is the other way to do the same. Okay. Now, info, it has a key which is 1. Let's access it. And I want to update its value. So I'll be changing it with another integer value, that is 100. You can say that the value has been updated. It is as simple to update the value. Now let's say I want to add a new key value pair. So the new key would be number of employees, and I can directly assign a value. Let's say 42 is the value. And if you check, a new key has been added. Okay, it is very simple. Both adding and updating, they works in the same manner. For updating a value, the key should already be existing. If it is not existing, then automatically the key and the value pair would be created. Okay. So there is a function which is associated to do the same, and that function is known as update. You have to see how to apply this function and do the same. Now, if you want to delete element from the dictionary, so we have info, and there are few of the functions. We have pop and we have pop item. Okay, let's explore what these functions can do and what is the difference between both of them. So I'm going to start by pop function, and I want to remove the key, that is 1. So I get the value of that key popped out, and if you check, the key has been deleted. Now let's check what pop item function does. So this function, it is going to automatically pop out the last key value pair. Okay. So pop, in case of pop, you have to specify the key that you want to delete, and in case of pop item, it will automatically delete the last pair. Again, there are some similar functions which we studied for list as well, such as if you want to empty out a list, empty out the dictionary, you have the clear function. The dictionary is empty, and if you want to delete the dictionary, you can use the del, and the dictionary has been deleted now. Just like we use the del keyword inside list to delete any element, you can use it in the same manner for dictionary as well to delete a key value pair. Okay, this stands the same for dictionary and list both. Now, can you guys please give me a thumbs up if you have a great idea about what dictionaries are, what all functions can be used upon them, and how to add and remove elements from them. All right. Let's move towards the last data structure that we have left, which is set. Now, a set is used to store multiple elements just like all the others. But what is the unique with respect to set is that set is an unordered collection. Okay. It is unordered, it is unchangeable, and it is a collection of non-duplicate elements. I'm going to mention it here: unordered, unchangeable, and contains non-duplicate elements, which means all the elements are unique. That is to say, to declare a set, we use curly brackets only. Okay, and we also have the set constructor. So you can use either of them to declare a set. We are going to study about all of these words and we will see how they stand true with respect to sets. But first, let's see how we can declare a set. So if you want to declare an empty set, you cannot do so by using curly brackets only. Let's say this is S1 and I want it to be an empty set, but by default, it will always be treated as a dictionary. Okay. So if you want to declare an empty set, there is only one single way to do that. You have to use the set constructor. Okay. Now S2 is a set. Let's declare a set using curly brackets now, and we can do so by writing the elements. So here I have mentioned few of the elements, and this is going to be S3. Let's access S3. And there are two significant changes that we have observed here. The first change is that wherever duplicate elements were present, only one occurrence of them can be found in the resultant set, which means set is a unique connection. Second thing is about the order. The order of the elements has changed. You can see that these elements, they are now present in ascending order. However, the order of elements that I provided earlier, it was unsorted. So in that way, we call that sets are unordered. Unordered means the order that I had provided, it has changed. Lists, tuples, dictionary, they are ordered collection because the order, it never changes over the course of program. In whatever manner you define the elements, they stay same, they are always in the same order. However, in case of set, this order can change at any time. And since this order, it can change at any time, sets cannot be indexed or sliced. Okay. If you will try to index or slice the set, it is going to generate an error, such as let's index out first element of set 3. It will say set object is not subscriptable. Okay. Now talking about checking the length of set, you can use the same function that we had for other data structures, and it returns the length, which is the number of elements inside the set. Okay. Now, with respect to set, you have to figure out what all elements can be stored. This is a task for you guys. Okay. Mostly every element that we have studied so far, every data type, it can be stored. There is one or two exceptions. You have to look for those exceptions. Now, the third thing we are going to study with respect to set is how to add or remove elements. See, you cannot change the existing elements. It is unchangeable. But you can add and remove elements. Okay, so unchangeable with respect to set means that if there is something present, like if we have this 3 over here, I cannot replace it with a new value. However, I can add a new value and I can remove the existing element. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So for doing this, I'm going to declare two sets. One is 1, 2, 3, 4, and another one has elements 4, 5, 6. All right. So firstly, we have this function that is called the add function. So s1 dot add, and I want to add a new element to s1. Let's say it is 55, and you can see that s1 has a new element now. Okay. There is another function which can achieve the same task of adding new elements. So s1 dot date, and this function is going to take another set and it is going to add the elements of this set to s1. So I want to update s1 with the values of s2. Let's check s1 now. So when you see the values 1, 2, 3, 4, and 55, they were unique to set 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 55. Set 2 had 5 and 6 as the unique values. Okay, because 4 is already present in S1, it is not added as a separate value, standing to the unique nature of set. So 5 and 6 are the values that got updated from S2. Okay, now let's see how to remove any element. We have two functions to do the same purpose. First is remove. Simply write the name or mention the element that you would like to delete. 55 is deleted. And another function to serve the same purpose is discard. Let's remove 1. So 1 is discarded from the set. All right. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you understand a little bit about set and how to declare them, how to apply functions on them? Okay. There is an extension or there is another concept related to set which is called frozen set. You have to see what frozen sets are. Okay, there is one very simple concept and you have to tell me tomorrow. Okay, Afan is saying, can sets be casted to list? Let's see that. So we have a set that is S3, and if you want to change it to list, that is completely possible. You can change it to tuple, you can change it to anything, but it cannot be changed to dictionary since the elements are not in that manner. Okay. All right. So frozen set is a homework which I'm going to ask before starting tomorrow's session. And before we end today's session, we are going to discuss one very important function, that is the input function. Okay. So like the name suggests, it will be used to take input and it is basically used to take input from the user. Up until now, we are assigning the values directly. Like if I want to assign a value 10 to a variable A, I am doing it in this manner. But let's say I want to take the I want to take the input from the user. So how can I do this? To achieve the same, we use this input function. Now this function, it can either be used with no arguments, or you can provide a message as argument. So if you use it directly, a dialog box will be appearing and you can write any value inside it. Okay. But it would be better to provide any kind of informative message. So I'm going to say enter any value. And I want to use this value. So I am storing it inside a variable as well. And let's display this value. So these characters I have entered. And you can see that I get my output right here. One thing that you can observe is that if I try to enter any integer value, this value is also treated as a string, because by default the input function uh, will always take the data type of the value to be string. Okay, so no matter what you enter, it will be converted into string data type. So if you want to accept an integer value, a float value, or any specific value, so you need to typecast it. Let's say I want to accept the entered value in integer data type. So I am typecasting it. Whatever value will be received, I have wrapped it inside the int constructor. And then if I write the integer, it will be treated as integer only. To be sure, you can check the type. And this is of type int. Okay. I believe there is no doubt with respect to what int function can be, how int function can be used and what it can do. We are going to use this function along with loops to create a user-defined list. Okay. So this we will be doing tomorrow, or you can also consider it as another homework. However, if you don't uh, find a way to create a user-defined list, it is totally acceptable, because we have not yet learned about loops. When we learn about loops, I'm going to demonstrate how to do this. Okay. So basically, you can use this input function along with loops to create a user-defined data structure. Okay. We'll be doing it in tomorrow's session. And with this, let's wrap up today's class.